This is the story of the First World War told from the African perspective.
Throughout history, wars have been known to bring out humanity's darkest and most evil traits. Imagine yourself surrounded by the chaos of World War I, where brave soldiers donned gas masks, battling the horrors of trench warfare.
Life in a trench, I'd like to explain in one word: horrific.
Not only men, but animals also played their significant roles in these horrific times. We bring you a collection of 25 rare photos from World War I that will make you relive the nightmares faced by soldiers. Join us as we shed light on the untold stories of sacrifice, courage, and humanity during World War I. Number 25. German Zeppelin raids. Airships were once symbols of luxury, not tools of death, but the unexpected happened in the dark of night in 1915 when a German Zeppelin L-3 descended on the coastal village of Great Yarmouth. The skyship unleashed horror, killing 2 civilians. Simultaneously, another Zeppelin crashed into King's Lynn, killing 2 more people. These fearsome aerial giants, dubbed Zeppelins after their inventor, Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin, were magnificent, but carried a lethal payload of bombs. Their hard shells were filled with combustible hydrogen gas and were armed with 5 machine guns, instilling fear in British hearts. The assaults continued as the Zeppelin attacked London, killing 5 people and injuring 35 more. Edinburgh, too, was attacked by 2 Zeppelins. These aerial behemoths appeared unstoppable, their attacks merciless. British defenses struggled, and popular morale dropped precipitously. Nothing seemed to be able to stop these flying terrors. The highly combustible hydrogen gas contained within was their Achilles heel. Ordinary bullets could pierce the gas bags, but it was the Buckingham incendiary bullet that ignited the hydrogen that changed the game. Germany ended the Zeppelin bombing operations over Britain as June 1917 dawned. Despite their psychological impact, the damage they caused was small. Number 24. The flamethrower. Few weapons were as horrific as the flamethrower in the bleak theater of World War I, and these rare pictures bore witness to the horrors of this innovation. The flamethrower wreaked havoc on the battlefield. It was a portable device that shot a jet of fire and smoke up to 20 yards in front of the operator. It made its wartime debut in 1915, when German shock troops deployed it to terrifying effect at the Hooge crater, shocking British soldiers. The weapon's limitations were obvious. It was ungainly, could only be used safely from trenches, and its fuel only lasted 2 minutes. Nonetheless, it became a dreaded weapon of war, with the Germans employing it in over 650 strikes. It used groups of 6 flamethrowers per attack to remove defenses ahead of an infantry assault. As enemy fire targeted their fuel tanks, operators lived in hazard, and capture meant probable death. By the end of the war, the flamethrower had progressed, even installed on tanks. Number 23. Horses and dogs wearing gas masks. Even animals were not immune to the horrors of chemical warfare in the horrific trenches of World War I. These rare photographs document the extraordinary attempts to safeguard horses, dogs, and other animals from the lethal fumes that pervaded the battlefield. Horses, which were essential for hauling supplies and ammunition, were outfitted with gas masks that covered their muzzles. While lacrimatory substances did not harm their eyes, these noble animals were nonetheless vulnerable to chlorine and vesicatory fumes. The toll on them was enormous. Only 62,000 of the million British horses dispatched to aid the war effort returned home. Dogs, soldiers' faithful companions, were also provided with gas masks. Approximately 1 million dogs served in World War I, performing a variety of tasks ranging from sentries to couriers. To their diminutive stature, they were able to negotiate trenches and deliver messages, making them important. These valiant dogs faced not just the hazards of combat, but also the possibility of chemical agents. Despite international regulations, the deployment of chemical weapons marks a tragic chapter in the war's history. Humans and animals both witnessed the devastation caused by the toxic fumes as they spread. Number 22. Tanks for the first time. During this devastating struggle, these mechanical giants, first built by Britain, altered the direction of warfare. Trench warfare defined World War I, resulting in a grim stalemate on the Western Front. In reaction, governments sought novel weapons to break the impasse. Britain pioneered tank development, producing the prototype Little Willie in 1915, a 14-ton armored behemoth with caterpillar tracks. The tank's construction was kept a secret, with British commanders calling it water carriers to retain the mystery. The British Mark I tank was the first to be used in war during the Battle of the Somme in 1916. Despite their inconsistency, they provided the Germans with a psychological advantage as these massive robots roamed no man's land. Tanks proved their worth despite technological flaws, leading to increased production and pushing other countries, such as France and Germany, to build their own. Although the tank's participation in World War I is controversial, its impact on warfare is undeniable. Tanks, from the Mark I to the revolutionary Renault FT, became icons of might on the battlefield, shaping the future of armored warfare. These steel titans left an indelible mark on history, transforming the face of battle forever. Number 21. Aerial battle. The First World War was the start of aerial warfare history, and these rare pictures offer an insight into the tremendous progress of aviation during those difficult years. Military officials were initially skeptical about the utility of airplanes, relegating them exclusively to reconnaissance tasks. However, quick technological advances, such as the ability to fire machine guns through propellers, resulted in the emergence of fighter aircraft. The Germans had air superiority at first, but this changed as the Allies strengthened their fighter squadrons and the British Royal Flying Corps increased. Control of the sky went back and forth, with costly confrontations such as Bloody April in 1917, during which the British sustained considerable losses. Despite these obstacles, aviation played a critical role in assisting ground operations by providing tactical air support and surveillance. Artillery fire and troop movements were greatly impacted by aerial photography and spotting by balloons and aircraft. These images document the origins of modern aviation combat. Number 20. Lusitania sinking. In 1915, the RMS Lusitania set off on its voyage in the shadow of the Titanic. She was the pride of the British fleet, a symbol of luxury and speed. But fate had other plans. A quick, deadly hit jolted her starboard side as she sailed off the coast of Ireland. Without notice, a German U-boat released a torpedo. As the crew hurriedly sought to lower lifeboats, chaos erupted, but the ship's significant list made escape practically impossible. Only a small number of lifeboats were successfully launched. The once mighty Lusitania was lost to the depths of the Atlantic in under 20 minutes. It was a horrible day that claimed the lives of 1,198 people. What distinguishes this catastrophe is not only its magnitude, but also its diplomatic context. Germany had proclaimed the waters surrounding the United Kingdom a war zone, claiming the Lusitania was carrying war materials, and so a valid target. The warnings were present, yet they were ignored. The sinking provoked indignation, particularly in the United States, where 128 Americans died. While it was not the only reason for the United States' participation in World War I, but it did strengthen anti-German sentiment. Number 19. Gas masks. Poison gas evolved as a frightening and lethal weapon in the trenches of World War I. German armies unleashed their wrath, forever altering the essence of warfare. However, the invention of a critical piece of equipment, the gas mask, was prompted by this new weapon. The first widespread use of poison gas at Ypres, Belgium, sent shockwaves through the ranks. Soldiers were exposed to a yellowish-green cloud of chlorine gas, which ruined their lungs and caused them to drown in their own bodily fluids. Gas strikes caused widespread panic and retreat, almost allowing the Germans to break through. Early gas masks were crude and frequently saturated in water or urine. From basic cotton pads to chemically saturated fabric, British and French armies progressed to the British smallpox respirator. With no effective countermeasure, mustard gas remained a lethal threat. The World War I gas masks, such as the French M2 and German later Schutzmaske 1917, provide a window into a horrible past. a testament to the suffering of those who suffered the hellish trenches. Number 18. Military observation balloons. The simple yet crucial military observation balloons grabbed center stage in the skies of World War I. These massive balloons were critical in aerial warfare because all major adversaries used them to monitor enemy trench lines and troop movements. These balloons offered real-time intelligence, which was critical for directing artillery fire, especially with the introduction of long-range cannons. These tethered giants, which often floated above 3,000 feet, were sprinkled throughout Paris, London, and other towns. Because of their importance, they were protected by anti-aircraft weapons and fighter planes. Attacking a balloon was dangerous, but some pilots rose to the occasion, becoming famous balloon busters. Willy Coppens, Friedrich Ritter von Roth, Frank Luke, Léon Bourgeade, Michel Coiffard, and Maurice Boyot were among the daredevils who attempted to knock down these floating targets. The rising of an observation balloon frequently signaled the start of a fight, hence the expression, "the balloon's going up." These images capture the essence of this one-of-a-kind and important part of World War I aerial warfare, from the inflation of hydrogen to the thrilling moments of ascent, and even the brave escapes of observers who parachuted from stricken balloons. Number 17. Shell shock. In the terrifying world of World War I's, silent sufferers were the victims of a disorder known as shell shock. These warriors wore the invisible scars of war, their minds devastated by the trench horrors. The human mind and body were put to the ultimate test in the furnace of industrialized combat, where explosions shook the earth. This syndrome was frequently misinterpreted at the time as physical brain damage caused by exploding shells or even cowardice. The underlying cause, that is, extended exposure to the constant stress of combat, remained unknown. Diagnosis and treatment were uneven. Some found consolation in Freudian approaches and physical therapy, while others were subjected to the agony of electric shock therapy. Almost 10,000 Canadians were diagnosed with shell shock during the war. Shock therapy, despite its brutality, proved to be more beneficial than conversation therapy, with roughly 2/3 of patients returning to the front lines, though many would eventually relapse. The effects of shell shock on soldiers and the military's attempts to deal with it remain a disturbing chapter in the annals of war history. Number 16. Battle of Verdun. The Battle of Verdun was the longest conflict in modern history. The plan was devised by the German chief to guarantee a Western Front victory by crushing the French army before British reinforcements bolstered the Allies. Verdun, an ancient, fortified city on the Meuse River, was chosen with care. The fight began with a tremendous artillery barrage. They quickly took Fort Douaumont. The German approach then changed towards taking ground. French General Philippe Pétain employed a plan that included strong points and rotating units, strengthening artillery and guarding the critical supply line. The battleground was affected by the constant rain. By June, the Germans had taken Fort Vaux but were unable to continue. Due to winter circumstances and the Somme combat, the conflict concluded on December 15th. The massive losses at Verdun created a manpower problem in Germany, damaging their chances as the war progressed. French troops operate a captured German Maxim MG machine gun at Fort Douaumont, Verdun, in this photograph. During the heavy warfare at Verdun, this gun would have been a useful asset. This photograph depicts the firing of a German heavy artillery gun, essential in the Battle of Verdun. These photographs show the battle conditions and provide a visual perspective on the difficult terrain and conditions encountered by soldiers on both sides throughout this lengthy and violent conflict. Number 15. The carrier pigeons. These rare photographs honor the carrier pigeon's essential role in wartime communication. In an era when technical dependability was scarce, carrier pigeons provided unrivaled accuracy and clarity in message delivery. The National Archives has a collection of communications delivered by these feathered warriors to American soldiers serving in various branches. Even early airplanes relied on pigeons for mid-flight updates. These birds were released in flight and returned to their coops with invaluable observations. Despite their size, tanks relied on pigeons to coordinate units without endangering troops' lives. However, the genuine heroics of the pigeons occurred on the front lines, transmitting important intelligence to commanders and planners. While the Allies were early adopters of carrier pigeons, the United States quickly followed suit after entering the war. Even in the face of hostile fire, avian heroes accomplished astounding exploits. Despite multiple bullet wounds, they bravely soared through gunfire and saved countless American lives. Number 14. Casualty of Somme. Among the horrors of the Somme, these rare photographs reveal the dismal reality of this brutal conflict. On July 1, 1916, British troops went on the worst day in British history, with 57,470 casualties, including 19,240 deaths. General Sir Douglas Haig led these valiant volunteers into the conflict, aiming to break the 18-month-long trench warfare standstill. A sustained bombardment devastated German defenses in the run-up to the conflict, culminating in a series of mine explosions. However, as the dust settled and 0 hour approached, the German men emerged unhurt from their dugouts. Their machine gunners opened fire on the oncoming British, causing massive fatalities. Tragedies such as the near annihilation of the 1st Newfoundland Regiment occurred as a result of inadequate communication obstructing commanders' grasp of the battlefield. Machine guns took a terrible toll on both sides as the fight went on, and General Haig turned his attention to attrition. While a decisive breakthrough remained elusive, the British gained a strategic win when they forced the Germans to suspend their advance at Verdun. Nonetheless, the Somme's damage had a high toll, with the British Fourth Army advancing only 900 meters between July and September at the cost of 82,000 casualties. Number 13. Apocalyptic Aftermath. These unsettling pictures depict the catastrophic aftermath of World War I's relentless destruction along the Western Front. It's a scene that could be mistaken for a nuclear disaster. Once thriving cities have been reduced to ruins. A 700-year-old cathedral is barely standing, and majestic trees along lovely avenues have been ripped apart. These lifeless sites tell a sad picture of destruction long before the age of atomic bombs. Allied and German armies attempted to shell each other into submission along the Western Front during World War I, but success eluded them, leaving a bleak wasteland and numerous dead in its wake. The strategically important Belgian city of Ypres, which stood in Germany's path into France, received the brunt of this devastation. Ypres, once a prosperous center of the global fabric industry, was reduced to ruins after the war. These photographs are a reminder of the atrocities of war and the long-lasting scars it left on the land and its people. Number 12. Pyramid of Captured Helmets. In this 1919 snapshot, we can see an amazing sight in the center of New York City. In front of the beautiful Grand Central Terminal, New York Central Railroad employees proudly exhibit a towering pyramid of over 12,000 confiscated German Pickelhaubes, the unmistakable spiked helmets. Following the end of World War I, these helmets were transferred from German warehouses. This magnificent display was part of Victory Way, a Park Avenue fundraising drive for the Fifth War Loan. A massive pyramid of German military material, including these helmets, was built at each end of Victory Way. A concealed support mechanism beneath this formidable array held the helmets in place. 2 cannons flank the pyramid, and the landscape is decked with countless flags and eagles, bursting with symbolism and strength. This image raises questions concerning its sociological and psychological impacts on the audience, in addition to its visual impact. The overwhelming quantity of enemy helmets, each symbolizing a slain or captured soldier, might be interpreted as a tribute to victory, as well as a melancholy reminder of the human cost of war. This iconic helmet was eventually superseded by the German steel helmet, which greatly reduced head wound fatalities in the later stages of World War I. Number 11. Camels carrying the wounded. Camels played an important role in the Sinai War of 1916 in the vast deserts of the Middle East. These tough beasts, outfitted with cacolet stretchers, ferried injured men over the desert terrain. While a practical solution, the cacolet provided little comfort, as the rolling motion of camels worsened the suffering of the afflicted. The Imperial Camel Corps played an important role in the First World War's desert operations, operating in places such as Palestine and Sinai. It was founded by Australian troops returning from Gallipoli and later expanded to include men from Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and even the Hong Kong and Singapore mountain batteries. These rare photographs document the Imperial Camel Corps' worldwide makeup and diverse actions during this turbulent period. From preparing to mount their camels to resting in the shade of trees, these photographs show the unique role that these camels and their riders had on the battlefield. Number 10. Elephants helping in war effort. During the chaos and devastation of World War I, an uncommon sight appeared on the European battlefields: elephants assisting the war effort. When horses and mules became scarce in Germany, these majestic creatures were recruited from circuses and zoos. The elephants took over for their horse counterparts in a variety of functions, transporting weaponry, explosives, and machinery. Their extraordinary power enabled them to carry loads comparable to 3 horses. Lizzie, a former performer in a traveling menagerie, was one such worker elephant. She switched her tricks for hard labor, hauling loads of iron to the munition factories while surprising passing horses. As the war progressed, elephants such as Lizzie were indispensable in scrapyards and other labor-intensive jobs. These photographs recorded these incredible historical moments when these peaceful giants went into the chaos of battle. Number 9. Sergeant Stubby. Sergeant Stubby was an extraordinary American military dog who became a great hero during World War I. During the early years of the war, Stubby was discovered as a stray on the streets of New Haven, Connecticut. He was a short, barrel-shaped dog of unknown breed with a charming personality. His life changed course when he began hanging out with troops from the 102nd Infantry Regiment who were training at Yale University. Robert Conroy, a 25-year-old soldier, fell in love with Stubby and named him after his short tail and diminutive stature. Stubby's distinct powers and charm won him favor with the Army, and he quickly learned to salute by raising his paw. Stubby was secreted away on the ship when the regiment was transported to France, becoming the official mascot of the Yankee Division. Stubby's performance in France was nothing short of outstanding. He took part in several conflicts, including the Second Battle of Marne and the Battle of Château-Thierry. His acute senses enabled him to spot artillery munitions and mustard gas attacks, saving many lives. Stubby's incredible adventure exemplifies the bravery and dedication of animals who served with soldiers throughout World War I. Number 8. Women and children at the munitions factories. In this fascinating look back at history, we see the era of World War I's young guns, the women and children who became the unsung heroes of munitions manufacturers. Many of these laborers were very young and confronted with arduous obstacles and risks. Looking over these rare photographs, we are reminded that necessity knows no age. Teenagers and even child workers worked in the explosives and weapons industries. The photographs depict youthful lives that have been upended while working valiantly to help the military cause. The age range ranged from an 11-year-old girl working in a factory to elderly women handling lead. These young people persevered in the face of adversity. Their tremendous assistance came at a high personal cost. Dangerous workplaces, eye injuries, and industrial accidents are all part of their daily lives. Explosions were kept quiet to avoid panic, and the chemicals they worked with earned them the moniker canaries due to their yellowed complexion. Despite this, they found freedom, traveling freely, earning higher earnings, and cultivating newfound companionship. Number 7. Belgian city of Leuven. During World War I, the Belgian city of Leuven saw a tragic tragedy in August 1914. These rare photographs document the destruction caused by the German army's brutal devastation. The city's center was ruthlessly razed to the ground, with almost 2,000 structures reduced to rubble and 248 innocent individuals killed. The devastation began with intermittent rifle fire on the streets, but the exact cause remains unknown. German accusations that Belgian franc-tireurs started the violence are questionable because no organized guerrilla action was confirmed in Belgium. The Belgian government had even advised Leuven residents not to provoke German retaliation. Then came a wave of heinous violence. Civilians were shot, their homes were set on fire, and others were tortured. German soldiers burned down the university's library, which housed priceless collections of medieval manuscripts and books. Over 230,000 books, 750 manuscripts, and many personal libraries were destroyed in addition to the library. The city hall was saved since it served as the German headquarters, although much of Leuven was destroyed. Thousands of inhabitants were forced from their homes, and many civilians were transported to Germany. The world was shocked by these atrocities, which tarnished Germany's prestige and drove a breach between neutral countries and the Central Powers. The ruin of Leuven is a terrible reminder of the violence of war. Number 6. The trenches. Pictures from the terrifying world of World War I trenches stand true to the phrase "war in hell." These deep, shallow trenches, which came to symbolize the Great War, were largely used along the Western Front in northern France and Belgium, where German and Allied forces met. Soldiers created these ditches to protect themselves from machine gun and artillery bombardment. Trenches provided some protection against the horrors of chemical warfare, allowing soldiers to put on gas masks when exposed to deadly chemicals. Attacks were launched from these trenches, forcing troops to clamber over the top into no man's land under a hail of gunfire, resulting in catastrophic casualties. Nighttime trench assaults were regular as the conflict continued, aided by artillery support. The Germans were particularly skilled at staging surprise raids behind enemy lines, aiming for weak points. These rare photographs illustrate the suffering and heroism of individuals who fought in World War I trenches where living conditions were unbearable. Now it's time for our subscribers' pick. This photograph, allegedly taken in the World War I era, recently went viral online. Several history buffs and people in the print media are speculating that this could be from one of the fashion campaigns shot for a women's clothing label probably after the war ended. World War I is known to have accelerated the shift in women's fashion. This war put an end to the norm of multiple daily outfit changes for women and shifted to full-day styles and tailored suits. The corset lost its value and in came the bra, which with its creation, it resulted in enough extra steel to build 2 battleships. The lingerie evolved to be more comfortable and accommodating of the daily labors. We think this photo might be part of a campaign to promote the newer comfortable underwear, and some creative director probably thought it would be great publicity to use a weapon as prop. Was this in good taste? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Number 5. The broken faces. Haunting images from the aftermath of World War I reveal the harsh reality faced by troops who had lost their faces due to devastating injuries. These photographs, shot between the end of 1918 and the beginning of 1919, depict the devastating and sad results of war. In their daily lives, these heroic troops, many of whom had suffered terrible facial disfigurements, faced incredible obstacles. Their wounds served as a continual reminder of the horrors of the battlefield, and they had to deal with not just physical suffering, but also the mental cost of their transformed appearances. The road to rehabilitation for many warriors was littered with surgeries and medical treatments. Harold Gillies, a young surgeon, was instrumental in attempting to repair their damaged features, but the scars, both visible and unseen, would follow them for the rest of their lives. These images provide a view into the sacrifices made by those who served during World War I, as well as the ongoing hardships they faced after the war. Number 4. Paris protection. Paris, the City of Light, found itself uncomfortably close to the front lines during the mayhem of World War I. The once bustling metropolis had been altered. Men had marched off to war, leaving wives, children, sisters, and mothers behind to fill the labor void. While many stores closed, those selling necessities remained open, and big hotels were converted into hospitals. As the Germans bombarded Paris, its citizens devised innovative ways to safeguard their beloved city. Sandbag piles appeared, establishing improvised defenses around major monuments and buildings. Priceless artwork was relocated to secure locations, and cathedral stained glass windows were painstakingly removed. Windows were strengthened with crisscrossing patterns of masking tape in the act of inventiveness and resilience, a psychological defense against the harsh backdrop of wartime. Long-range German weapons and Zeppelins, especially the famed Paris gun, capable of firing Paris from unprecedented distances, repeatedly shelled the city. Despite the fact that these attacks killed people and damaged property, they had little effect on French morale or the outcome of the war. Parisians, tenacious and determined, used sandbags and masking tape not only to safeguard their city, but also as symbols of defiance in the face of war's darkness. Number 3. French cavalry on horses. On the battlefield, we see a mix of the ancient and the new. French cuirassiers, seen here in the early months of the war, stuck to conventional breastplates and plumed helmets, representing a time-honored attitude to battle. They had no idea that the tides of battle were turning, fueled by advances in technology that would permanently alter the face of conflict. Military tactics of 1914 were reminiscent of bygone eras. Troops marched in large numbers, artillery fired straight with open sights, and cavalry scouted and sought openings for breakthroughs. However, as the front lines hardened and became entrenched with layers of barbed wire, a static battle arose, making enemy trenches practically impossible to penetrate. Infantry soldiers wore cloth headgear and carried bolt-action rifles, with just 2 machine guns in each battalion. Fast forward to 1918, and we see a huge change. Artillery now used indirect fire guided by forward observers, including flying observers. The cavalry had evolved into a mobile reserve unit, dismounting to engage in foot battle as necessary. Infantry troops were given multiple machine guns, hand grenades, rifle grenades, trench mortars, and unprecedented offensive and defensive versatility. This single image captures the fundamental changes that transformed the entire nature of fighting during World War I. Number 2. Soldiers playing football. The Christmas Truce of 1914 is a wonderful narrative of brotherhood that lingers in history, set against the dismal backdrop of World War I. It was this time when the British and German troops laid down their weapons and exchanged handshakes and Christmas pleasantries in no man's land. It's been called one of the most extraordinary sights anyone has ever seen. The lasting image of this truce is a game of football between foes, albeit historical reports dispute whether or not it occurred. Nonetheless, it represents a brief reprieve from the horrors of battle. The images reveal men in World War I enjoying football during gaps between fighting. Football functioned as a diversion from the horrors of the battlefield, and even as a recruiting tactic. But it also had a deeper meaning. It was a method to hide the horrors of war behind layers of spectacle and virtue, suggesting that war is a game with rules and safety. These photographs show short moments of joy in the midst of war's misery. Number 1. First day of Armistice. The world experienced a major turning point in 1918, at the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month. An armistice was declared, putting an end to the horrors of the war. Though the Treaty of Versailles officially ended the conflict, November 11th became synonymous with the end of the Great Conflict. It was a day of joyous festivities. The war-weary globe burst out laughing, with Cambridge students throwing books, bonfires, and streets filled with applause, whistles, and fireworks. Many thought they wouldn't live to see the war's end, and their homecoming caused a significant upheaval. It was a moment of wild celebration and relief as the globe rejoiced. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.